Hi YouTube. This is a board I've rived from a log that I found on the side of the road from a tree. The tree service took apart. I rived it and split it into a board using this froe here. It's a little undersized, but drove it through using a smaller log as a hammer and split a decent board out of it. And so it's still very green because it was just felled about a week ago. So what I've been using to flatten this board out is a slick. And I'll show you why. Let's put that froe down. So, this is a scrub plane, and traditionally on dry wood, this is what I would use to bring the board down to flat, removing a lot of material at once. It's really a very quick and efficient tool. This is a relatively soft log because it is green, but as you can see, you can't see out the mouth. The mouth is completely and totally clogged, so you try and use something with a larger mouth. This scrub plane over here is a craftsman made tool. It's got a file for a blade, a much larger mouth. The bottom is rounded, so you can tell it was designed by the person who used this for much heavier work. However, this wood is so green that it still clogs this mouth. The shavings it takes don't fly out quite enough. Maybe some modifications to the wedge and the mouth structure would allow it to do that. But as of right now, this does not do the job. So, enter the slick. This is a 3.5-inch slick made by James Swan. It's from the late 1800s, and it's just under 3 feet from tip of blade to end of handle. This here, the blade itself, is just under a foot long, so you can get an idea of the proportion of this thing. Actually, it might be about a foot long. Very large blade, very heavy blade. And what that allows you to do, since there is no mouth on the end of this, and it is razor sharp, it allows you to take shavings like this. Really nice, huge shavings. And you use the mass of the blade. You can see the back is pretty flat. It's got a slight curve to it so that you can put pressure on the end of the blade. So it's actually curved, up. So if you look at it sideways, it's a very slight smiley face. And the reason it's like that is so you can concentrate back down here. You can control the blade. You can control if you're digging down or even slightly digging up, depending on how you put pressure here. So as you approach high and low spots, you don't get stuck digging in at a certain angle. You can control your angle of attack very efficiently with a slick like this. And it's a little hard to demonstrate with one hand, but this is a socket handle, so you don't pull back and forth on the handle. You basically push with this. You put another hand here and you apply downward force on the blade, and that's how you control it. You see the handle just slid right out there. It is winter, it's dry, and it's shrunk, and it's very old, so it's a little loose in there. But you use the handle to push back here, and you take off shavings. You take off shavings this size, and you can see here, looking at the board where it was split here. You can see how rough it is and how it's going up and down. And this used to have a really high spot right here with a knot in it. And here's another little low spot. But you can see, just looking at this knot here, I mean, that's glassy smooth. This slick does an incredible job. And for green wood, I've never used anything better at flattening other than a draw knife. For something this wide, I don't have a draw knife that's 16 inches wide. I'm sure they exist. That's going to take a decent amount of strength to use. It'd be more of a bark peeler, I guess, at that point. But something like this, for flattening a board this size, you can see how smooth it is already in certain areas where the slick has been hitting. Just like a plane, it'll hit high and low spots depending on the length of this. This will actually do a really good job of flattening the board out. Just look at the length. That's like the sole of the plane. So I can remove high and low spots at nearly a foot apart from each other and get a board relatively flat and ready to use with an actual plane later once the board is dried. It will dry, it will warp, and it will cup slightly. And then at that point, hopefully, if it's been conditioned correctly, you only need to remove a little bit more material with a foreplane, and then use a smoothing plane, and then it's ready for whatever you're going to use it for. Alright, so that's a slick for you. Goodbye, YouTube.